Welcome back. Jason Spero, the mobile marketing head of Google Worldwide, has the unenviable task of selling the internet in general and Google in particular to advertisers. He's trying to move away from data and getting into case studies that convince marketers that they have an ROI in advertising on the internet. Let's take a look at the conversation. Jason, thank you for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, marketers are grappling with, more than anything else, how to measure all the investments in digital. And now it gets worse in mobile. They know they need to be there, and they don't know how to spend the money because they don't get the metrics right. Yeah. So what do you tell them?
We take them back, and we start with the consumer behavior, because I think drawing a picture and being able to measure is one thing, but you have to first understand the consumer may have multiple devices, for example. And some of the behavior that starts on one device may ultimately be a conversion of sorts on another device. You may also find that some of the behavior that starts in the digital world ends up in a physical store or in a quick serve restaurant or in any number of places. And so we try to help each brand build a model of their consumer's path to purchase. And that consumer's path to purchase, as we said, is quite varied and quite new. And so usually those models are somewhat disruptive for the customer. Once you have a model in place that says, okay, we think the customer is researching here and moving here, then you can have that technology conversation, and Google's investing in the tools to try to help here, but to be able to say, okay, I think the customer is using multiple devices to research a flight or a hotel. And then I want to sort of build one picture as they move back and forth across those devices. I think the downstream conversation is about how do you give credit for this? But ultimately, if you can treat that as one journey, which is our vision, then you can give credit and you can put media dollars against it.
But when you say treat it as one journey, they give you all the money, or how does this work then?
Oh, well, obviously we aspire to get as much of it as we can, but it's more about helping them solve the problem.
Can I say that this doesn't sound any different from a pre-digital world? Because there was a customer journey, the customer went from a newspaper, radio, outdoor, and then went into a shop. And those metrics were easy to understand. You know, you had the old GRPs and you had the leadership surveys. Now you got a dashboard, you got algorithms, and you got all kinds of nonsense, which is more difficult to understand. So how do you simplify that?
Well, I think I would start by saying that older world that you described, the offline world, I think often used broad brushstroke measures, and maybe they couldn't be as precise. I think why many marketers love digital is you can be quite specific about your conversion rate and did someone end up making the purchase or not. Whereas I think in a TV world, there's all those famous sayings about which parts work and which part don't. I think what's so exciting about digital, and we've, as an industry, grown up a lot in our measurement tools, is you actually can measure this. And I think you can get precise down to was the flight purchased or not, and actually did someone end up in the store or not. So I think that's new science. For our customers, that's a journey. They need to make change because their organization has been buying different kinds of media for a while, and their measurement expectations are different. But as you educate them and say, okay, digital can do these things for you, I think most people wouldn't want to go back.
Right. Now, by your experience in more mature markets, when you saw the jump from a simple phone to a smartphone and a feature phone to a smartphone,
yes.
What happened to the consumer? What did you see change in the consumer?
Well, I mean, I think the most obvious thing is they went from doing things where they're holding the phone up to their ear or maybe texting to a lot more things you do while looking at the phone.
Right.
And that enables new marketing opportunities, but you also have to build new user experiences. So I think the simplest thing I would say, and I think what I understand about India is that the decreasing cost of smartphones and improvements in networks will take you down a similar path. I think that the experiences that people have that are built for those environments are things that are about navigating the physical world. So all of the things that you think and associate with a map, all of the things that you might do on an impulse and stolen 10 minutes while you're sitting in a rail station, are things that people start to be able to do because they're connected. I think the needs that we're addressing are not new. But because we're connected in moments that we didn't used to be, we have this powerful ability to act on all of those needs. And that's, I think, the experience that we're all trying to build for.
One of the challenges, you were upstairs talking to a room full of marketers and advertisers.
Yes.
The average age of those people was 40 plus. Again, by your experience, you say it's easier to convince the younger lot than the older lot? Or what is the experience in talking to a 45-year-old CEO or 50-year-old CEO and getting him to understand what's happening in the mobile world?
So you're right to recognize this. I think there is a transformation here, and I think people that have grown up with this technology make that transition more quickly. What I've found is most CEOs and CMOs like to look at data, and they see their users coming online on mobile devices, and there's a journey, and I think Rajan, our leader in India, talked about we're no longer having the debate about whether this is happening, about whether digital is high impact regardless of your business. We're now into what can you do about it. And so we're having what I would describe as how type conversations rather than yes, no type conversations. So I think they're motivated leaders. I think change management is hard, and some will make it faster than others. What I've found is the most valuable thing for that CEO, for that CMO, is to provide them with examples of what it looks like when it works. And so we're big into publishing case studies, maybe bringing examples from other markets. And I think India will ultimately be an example for other markets about what it looks like when you get it right. And I would say I think most marketers can make that journey if they're looking at the data and paying attention to their customers.
From the time digital has come to India, we find that you had digital, which was like giving you so much data that was not funny, and you had the legacy media, print and TV, which were not even measured decently. So is that a cross around your neck that you're wearing, that there's so much data that it punishes you? The yields are still fairly low. I'm not just in India, worldwide. So what causes that?
Well, and I think there's always an abundance of data. And one of the things that's fascinating about mobile is the thousands, we unveiled some research today, the thousands of digital touch points that you have throughout the day. And many of those touch points don't have that much commercial value. I'm sending a quick text to someone, or I'm publishing some pictures on social media. It's about parsing that and figuring out which data you need and which of those moments matter and which of those moments don't. And so I think humbly that Google's trying to build the tools to help people understand in the vast array of things that they could track, what are the 1, 2, or 3 metrics that are important to their business, and then provide them those tools. So you're right that there's a lot. I think the effort is to help people cut through that.
Right. Earlier the world for the marketer was very simple in the sense he dealt with one agency, and he spoke to them, and they gave him his creative, his media, they painted his outdoor, they did everything.
Yeah.
And now he's got to grapple with this large number. And the same problem for you, because you've got to talk to a large number of influencers to sell anything. You've got to talk to a media agency, a digital agency, a digital creative agency, a social media agency, and then the client. So how complex is the selling process now for you?
Well, I think before the selling process comes the education process.
Right.
And I think we see the agency ecosystem, which is very fluid, as you know, as a partner in educating the client. If we can educate an agency, whether that's a creative agency about how to build videos that are going to be consumed on a mobile phone, or whether that's a performance-oriented agency about what we track, as we just discussed, if we can educate that agency and then they can bring their clients along, we see that as amplification. So from our perspective, investment in the agency partnership is critical, and that helps bring it along. You mentioned fragmentation. I think our main touch points are we have direct client conversations, but we do send them back to their agency when they want deeper expertise or the kinds of things like creative and measurements and all of that. So I actually see building expertise in agencies as one of the critical success factors as you educate a market.
You brought it up, the creativity. One of the problems with digital in India, certainly, and perhaps the challenge is going to be worse in mobile, is creativity on digital. Up to now, people, they take a TVC, they snip a bit, and they shove it onto the .com.
That's not an India-specific problem. Sure. We have lots of people.
You've seen markets mature with that problem.
Yeah.
So what would you advise marketers to do there? They somehow the thought that digital is cheap creativity, cheap, low-cost creativity, and that's a problem. So how do you address that problem?
Well, I think there are a number of answers to that. I think the first is rapid iteration. Rapid iteration. Right. I think launch and iterate, decide what your metrics are that you want, and then constantly be iterating. One of the beauties of digital is that you can be doing your A/B tests, so to speak, very regularly, and see what's working, what's not on the fly.
Can you suggest a few companies which are doing it right, few brands which do it right?
Oh, I think one of the things that we're doing is trying to bring examples from other markets. Sure. And I think you see lots. I would give the example of Unilever, who probably was a late starter in mobile, but who went and studied what kinds of videos people are looking for when they're on their devices. And ultimately, Unilever went and built how-to videos for how to do hairstyles, because they saw that people were literally in the bathroom propping their phone up next to the mirror and trying to get the hairstyle. And so before they even tried to sell them shampoo or hairspray or any of the different products that they offer, Unilever built content with the understanding that people on their mobile devices were trying to understand how to get that look. And so I think ultimately that was an insight about how people were using the device, and they did the A/Bs around the creative, and now they have that earned media because they have a relationship with the consumer when she's in the bathroom trying to do her hair.
Right. Now tell me, you've got in India certainly, and certainly in Europe and the US, you have the problem that the old legacy creative agencies didn't get digital, and suddenly everything is
There's a TV bias sometimes.
There is a TV bias. So what do you do about the TV bias? Because the young creative directors still say, I want to see my film, say on the Super Bowl or on the IPL or whatever it is. and yet you want them to create sexy work for a mobile device or for a
I guess I would say a couple of things about this, and we went down this path in other markets, and I think we've gotten through this, but this is a hurdle you're right to recognize. I would say a couple of things. The first thing I would say is creatives usually like to build things that a lot of people use, and mobile is now a mass market platform, and I think that people understand that, and I think that is a draw. The other thing that I think is interesting that someone said to me once is when you sit in your living room couch and you look at the TV 10 to 12 feet away, the aspect ratio is sort of like this. But you hold your mobile, it's the most personal device. And people are coming to see that on this device you can do things that involve the camera, involve a touch screen. They're so powerful. And we're now giving awards away for people who build these types of things. And so if you hold that phone up this close to your face versus the TV far away, the aspect ratio is actually quite bigger, I think, on the mobile. And so I think we've seen creatives make the journey. The last thing I would say is that we now have examples of how great, how powerful, how engaging it is when it works. And I think creatives have come to understand that interactivity is as powerful as the sort of high-def big screen that they're after. And so I do think that whether it's from other markets or finding the early examples in the India market, that will shine a bright light on the things that do work and provide people a little bit of direction.
How important, in your opinion, is can taking digital much more seriously than it is, or mobile as a subset of digital, or Clio's, or
I think we've started to see awards in Cannes for mobile,
right,
and for digital, and I do think that's a big deal. I think there's nothing like having a Cannes lying on your shelf to be able to motivate someone both from a career perspective but also an agency perspective. So I think that is a big deal. I would be interested in whether there's something like that in India that has similar awards. But I do think that when you start rewarding things, people tend to change their behavior.
Right. Can a marketer survive if he doesn't go digital in the next 5 years?
No.
Okay.
It's a short answer, but no, I don't think so. I certainly think there will still be TV and print and outdoor.
Right.
But I think that given the mass market phenomenon and that we're seeing in the lowering of cost of devices and the improvement in networks, I think most marketers are going to have to learn digital.
And if you could talk to 100 marketers in a room, what is the 3 pieces of advice you could give them? You just got 10 minutes with them. What are the 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
I guess I would say the following. Go back, because consumer experiences are so changed by connectivity, and connectivity everywhere you are. They have connectivity in the mall, they have connectivity in the rail station, they have connectivity wherever they are. Go back and remap your customer's journey. Think about how your customer is finding their way to your doorstep, and remap that now that they're connected. It's a new customer insight. And again, Google likes to help with this by providing data. So if one is understand the customer journey in a digital mobile world, 2 is build the user experiences with the assumption that there's these quick bursts of engagement. So go rebuild your UX in digital to try to satisfy some of these needs, recognizing what consumers want when they're on the digital device, and then build new measurement models. We talked about measurement earlier, so that you can build the feedback loop to understand whether your efforts and your user experiences are resonating. So map it, build for it, and measure it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My viewers enjoy the show. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you. Well, what is clear is that we're going to see more and more advertising on the internet, and with more and more education, marketers will transfer a larger part of their money to advertising on the net. That's all we have for this week, but before we go, here's wishing you Happy New Year, and we come back in the New Year. You'll see a lot of very interesting programming. Till then, catch us on Facebook, Twitter, and wherever else Storyboard is written about. Thank you so much.